Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new workshop. Today, we're going to talk about Ayurveda, this ancient Indian healing system that you might have heard about before. So, Ayurveda comes from the Sanskrit name, of course, Ayur, which means life or daily living, and Veda, which means knowledge or science. That's why we call Ayurveda also the science of life, or the knowledge of life. So Ayurveda, as I was saying, is a very ancient system that we think is more than 5,000 years old, probably even older than that. We don't have specific traces of Ayurveda, like older traces of Ayurveda, because at its beginnings, it was only transmitted and passed on in a verbal form, in an oral form, by the rishis. Yeah, the people that we call the rishis are these great yogis, these masters, these original sages who received the knowledge of Ayurveda in meditation. So this is a very unique thing with Ayurveda, is that it's not something like an empiric science. It's not based on observation and experiment. It has actually been received through in meditation by these rishis in the form of what we could call intuitive knowledge. So this is very peculiar, very specific with Ayurveda. And then over time, it has been put into a written form. And we have traces of Ayurveda, but just traces. We don't have like a specific book just talking about Ayurveda or a specific Bible of Ayurveda. But we have traces and elements of Ayurveda in the Vedas, the fundamental Vedas, in the Upanishads, which are these ancient Vedic scripts, and the Bhagavad Gita that you may have heard of, which I really recommend for you to read as teachers to be, because the Bhagavad Gita is all about the yogic path, and it's beautiful because it shows us the philosophy of yoga in a very entertaining way, because it's based on a story. The story of Prince Arjuna, who has intimate conversations with Krishna, God. So a must read. So we have traces of Ayurveda in these scripts, but that's it, basically. We don't have so many things on Ayurveda. But of course, it is widespread in India. We have a lot of Indian clinics, Ayurvedic clinics in India, or Ayurvedic doctors or practitioners who are still very active there. And we also have Ayurveda in the West. So basically, it's coming from India. And as I said, it's very ancient. And what is Ayurveda actually talking about is that it's a whole science. It's a science of life. So it's all about this deep understanding of the human being in its emotional, psychological, spiritual aspects, not just physical aspects. And it also addresses the human being as a microcosm opposed to the macrocosm. So it's this deep and intimate relationship between the human being and the cosmos. So it's not having this dual approach where everything both are separate, the human being and the cosmos. It's actually a very unified approach where we are a microcosm to the macrocosm. We are a reflection of what happens on the universal level. We are made of the same elements as the universe. We are made of earth, water, fire, air, and ether, the 5 main elements. So we are just a reflection of this universal consciousness, that we can call the Brahman, and we are the Atman. We are the individual soul, and there's a very unique, deep relationship between both, if we embrace this path, this yogic path. It's all about finding this union again, between the Atman and the Brahman. So Ayurveda is this science of life. So not only addresses it addresses the human being and how we can, bring that human being back into balance, but it also addresses bigger concepts like the process of universal manifestation, like the primordial sounds of creation, how matter is created, how atoms react to a higher consciousness, things like that. So it's a very deeper, like very vast science, actually. Yeah, not just the aspect that we might know in the West that is more focused on the diet and nutrition and things like that. So it's a whole science. It's a whole science. So that is Ayurveda. And the main basic concepts of Ayurveda that you need to understand are actually in the number of 3. So the first one that I would like to mention is this holistic approach that I was talking about. Ayurveda is really based on a holistic approach. It is a holistic science. Why? Because it understands the human being not just as a physical being. Yeah, it understands the human body not just as a physical body. It actually acknowledges that the human being has many different layers, not just one. We have, yes, of course, the physical body, but we also have an emotional body. We also have a mental body. We also have an intuitive body. We also have an energetic body or a spiritual body. So we have many different layers that we're going to talk about in the next workshop. We're going to be addressing what we call the koshas. But it's for you to show that this is how holistic Ayurveda is. It has this whole holistic approach into understanding that we're not just a physical body. And that has a great consequence, because what it means is that when we have disbalance occurring, when there is an imbalance, when there is disease, when there is a physical symptom occurring, it actually has a root cause. A physical symptom, according to Ayurveda, never shows up randomly. It never comes out of nowhere. It actually has an original root cause that we address in Ayurveda. And this root cause, 90% of time, according to Ayurveda, is stored or comes from the mental and emotional body. That's why we say in Ayurveda that 80 to 90% of disease or disbalances in Ayurveda actually come from emotional and mental stress. That's how important the impact of stress can be on the physical body. And even Western medicine understands it now. Yeah, so that's something that we more and more understand, especially in our society where we live quite stressful lives sometimes. So this is how we need to understand how holistic it is. It is that we are not focusing on the symptom. Yeah, contrary to Western medicine, we're not going to just, not to criticize Western medicine, but it's just, we're not going to focus on the symptom. We're not going to just try and remove the symptom or numb the symptom and provide a medication for that. We're actually going to address the root cause. We're going to try to find out in which subtle body the root cause might be. Yeah, and we're going to address the person's entire life. We're going to look at the lifestyle. We're going to look at the diet. We're going to look at their habits. We're going to look even into how is their emotional and mental health. Yeah, so these are so important to Ayurveda. We know that through meditation, for example, or when you use techniques to balance and calm the nervous system, you're going to have also good results on the physical body. And sometimes we're going to even have like symptoms we're going to have like direct results on the physical body and sometimes having a bettering of the condition of the person. So this is how Ayurveda addresses the human body as a whole and really looking into the root cause. So that's kind of the main difference with Western medicine. And Western medicine also, or Western science, up until now, I think, doesn't address the other bodies, the subtle bodies of a human being. So they're only considering the physical body, whereas Ayurveda considers also the other bodies that I just mentioned earlier. Okay, so, and that we're going to study in the next workshop on the koshas. So that is number one. The second basic concept of Ayurveda is the self-healing approach. Yeah. Ayurveda considers that the human being, again, is a reflection of the cosmos. The creator, or this supreme consciousness that has created this world, has not made mistakes. There is no mistake in nature. Everything is designed perfectly. Everything is designed to be in this perfect natural state of harmony, balance, and health. But if there is not health, harmony, and balance, if imbalance, disbalance occurs, that means that, as we were saying before, there is a root cause to it. There is something that has caused it over time. Yeah. But what Ayurveda considers also is that the body is a self-healing machine. It has actually nothing to heal because it was designed to be perfectly healthy and balanced. It has nothing to heal, but it has this ability, this powerful ability to bring itself back into its natural state of health. Yeah, when we use Ayurveda, when we work with Ayurveda, it's all about triggering, activating the body's natural healing response, because the body is a powerful self-healing machine. If you provide that space, if you provide that time, if you provide the proper tools for the body to rest, digest, relax, it can find that balance again. It can find that state of harmony again, that state of health. Yeah, so that's the principle, that's the second concept and powerful concept of Ayurveda, is that there is actually nothing that is not curable, according to Ayurveda, and that the body can naturally come back into this natural state of harmony and health. So that's the second approach. And then the third concept of Ayurveda is prevention. Yeah, it's all about keeping that state of balance, keeping that harmony, keeping that natural state of health, in order to never allow disease or disbalance to come or to occur. So it's also acting as a prevention. It's also helping the human body to remain in that state of health, balance, and harmony. So that is the basic concepts of Ayurveda. If you're interested in going deeper into that knowledge, or you want to have like a concrete example of how Ayurveda looks like in India in the traditional way, I recommend you look at a documentary that was streamed probably 10 years ago on Arte. It's a French-German TV channel, but it is also now on YouTube, so you can type it on Google and you hopefully will find it. Normally you can find it. And it's called My Indian Doctor. And it's a nice documentary because it shows how it really concretely looks like. Because in India we have all these we still have all these Ayurvedic clinics there and Ayurvedic doctors and practitioners. So it's still super big in India. And so this is the journey of a French lady who has been diagnosed, unfortunately, with stage 4 cancer. She has a brain tumor, above other issues in the body. And of course, she has received all the treatments she could have received in France. And she has been removed most of that tumor through surgery. But during this documentary, we can follow her, and the camera follows her into her journey to India, because she has heard of Ayurveda and she decides to give it a try. Yeah, she has heard of the benefits of it. And so she travels to India and goes into this Ayurvedic clinic to stay there for a few months, maybe a couple of months or something. And we can see her undergoing these very strange to us Westerns, natural treatments. So she receives massages, she goes under a strict Ayurvedic diet, she receives treatments made out of plant medicine, she meditates, she does yoga, all these kind of things. And then during the documentary, you can see her travel back to France and go back to her oncologist, where she shares her results. And of course, she goes to her checkups, and the doctors are in shock. The doctors are in shock because she's considered healed. Yeah, she's considered cured from cancer, which technically, according to Western medicine, is not always feasible, is not always attainable through these processes, right? So she has that one-on-one conversation. We can see her talking to our oncologist, and he's or neurologist, I don't remember, but he's a very open-minded doctor, and he decides to look by himself. So he decides to travel back with her to India and for him to witness this with his own eyes. And he realizes how insane, and I mean, it's a very big shock for him, yeah, because he's like, okay, they're just doing this, meditating, plant medicine and diets and things like that, and that's it? Is that it, you know? So, and yeah, he's quite shocked, but also very moved and very open-minded in the sense that he's saying at some point, how wonderful it would be if both medicines, you know, both healing systems, the Western one and the Indian one, could collaborate, you know, because they could have amazing results also as a prevention, right? So I'll let you watch it. There's more to discover. I'm not spoiling everything, but there's more to discover in this documentary. But it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful insight into the world of Ayurveda in India, the traditional, the original way how Ayurveda is practiced there. And it shows you, it gives you that perspective that it is possible. Of course, disclaimer, it might not work for everybody. Not everybody might have the same mindset that this lady had in the documentary, but really the science behind Ayurveda is all about when you give that space, when you give that time, when you give the proper tools, it is a self-healing machine, and it really has this ability to come back to this natural state of balance and health I was talking about earlier. Yeah, so this is my introduction for Ayurveda. Of course, we're going to dive way more deeper into Ayurveda and all the aspects and how we can use it ourselves in our daily practice. And we're going to talk a bit more about the koshas and these different layers to understand a bit better the holistic approach of Ayurveda. Thank you very much, and see you on the next one.